Now, as far as yesterday is concerned, a former Connecticut man we now know was on board the second Boston plane that slammed into the World Trade Center, and in a cell phone call to his dad, he described knife-wielding hijackers, telling his dad, quote, "Something's wrong with the plane. Oh my God, they just stabbed the airline hostess." That's a direct quote from the man on his cell phone on board that plane shortly after the plane hit. His wife, his 2-year-old daughter, also among the victims. The man's parents live in Easton.
His mother said that the only thing about that is that all of them went together, that all of them died together as a family, and that's the only solace that she could take from that.
One of many terrible stories from yesterday. As Americans do try to comprehend the tragic, unthinkable attack, counselors across the country are being called upon to help Americans deal with their grief.
Leanne Meldau is a grief counselor from New Britain General Hospital, and she joins us in our newsroom now. Thank you so much for being here, Leanne.
Oh, thank you very much.
Leanne, we're talking about trying to get back to normal, trying to go back to our daily lives. What can we do to do that?
Well, for children, you know, children become really overwhelmed and just become flooded with information on what's on TV and so forth. So in terms of that perspective, because that's more of what I do is children and family work, is for parents to spend time watching TV with their kids, but also monitoring how much children are being flooded with. Because they just can't take in and process. I mean, as adults, we're having a tremendously difficult time with this. And children just, they can't do it developmentally. But making this a real talkable issue. Children have strong feelings and emotions over it, and they need to connect with their loved ones and be able to talk about it. And if they can't verbalize it, you know, actually in conversations, that through activities, through drawings for younger children, writing stories maybe, or poems or songs, making collages, those kinds of things are ways that children can express themselves.
And Leanne, another thing that we parents can do and adults can do in addition to monitoring our kids' TV consumption is also to watch the conversations that we're having with each other. I found myself when I got home from work yesterday having a blunt conversation with my wife about the things that happened yesterday, forgetting that our 5.5-year-old was within earshot and was absorbing some of this, and that can be just as upsetting to them, if not more so, than seeing something on TV.
Oh, absolutely. Exactly. As adults, we need our own support and so forth, and that's where we need to connect with other adults for that. But children are sponges and really respond to adult caretakers, whether it be parents, foster parents, grandparents, whomever they're living with and with whom they're really connected to. So they're really going to respond to the adults around them. So being honest and, you know, straightforward with facts, but also being sensitive to an understanding that children just can't take in the same, and allowing them to express themselves the best that they can.
All right,
Leanne
thank you so
Meldau.
much, Lee.
Leanne Meldau from New Britain General Hospital, thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate it. We are sending our kids back to school this morning. We're going back to work today as we try to recover from yesterday. Metro North rail service to New York is expected to return to a normal schedule today. Rail traffic was crowded yesterday, though, as thousands of professionals in New York came back home here to Connecticut.
And Channel 3's Lee for Lacey is at Union Station in New Haven. Lee, what's it look like now?
Ellie, it's just starting to pick up. There are more people coming in here, and I am told that the trains, Metro North and Amtrak, are running on or close to schedule on their normal schedule. But person after person that I spoke to this morning, they told me they are not going to New York. That's not their destination. They're getting on the New Haven line, and they're getting off at the stops along the way to go to work. Many of them expressed the shock and the feeling of helplessness at seeing these horrific pictures that we all saw yesterday of the World Trade and the Pentagon. One person that I did speak to who was heading into the New York City was very angry, and he said he was going today to send a message to the terrorists.
I work in Midtown, New York City, and came out of the train yesterday with a lot of people who were bloody and encased in soot, and I'm going back to work today.
Why are you willing to go back to New York?
I don't want to let the bastards get us. I just think it's, if we collapse and we just pull back and retire from all this, I think we're giving into it. And I think that terrorism needs to know that this country and the people of this area will fight back, will continue to work, and won't let us get, they're not going to get to us.
A very strong statement from that lawyer, Edward Meyer. I also spoke with some of the ticket booth people here at Metro North, and they said the 5th train was about to go out this morning at about 7:15, and that they had only sold 10 to 15 tickets to go to New York. Normally, by this time of the day, they've sold about 300. Back to you, Ellie and David.
All right, thank
Lee.
you so
How about
much,
that
Lee.
statement from the attorney? That was pretty powerful stuff, huh?
Absolutely. He was so angry, and he did not want to let the business of the day stop. He wanted to show them that we are Americans and that we are going to continue to stand strong and keep rolling.
One of the polls taken overnight, Lee, shows almost 90% of Americans see yesterday as an act of war and would support some type of action, and that seems to echo his sentiment there.
Absolutely, and the politicians that I spoke to yesterday, our Connecticut delegates, all of them echoed the same sentiment, that they feel this is an act of war and that we need to take very swift action.
All right, thank you so much, Lee. Lee for Lisi in New Haven this morning. Governor Rowland will be speaking in just a few minutes to address the state on what will happen here in the state. He's encouraging private businesses to open. All federal and state businesses will be open today here in the state of Connecticut. Now, crews will be searching through the remains of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center for many days, and thousands of firefighters have been called to the scene to assist with the wreckage.
Some of them have the horrible, dreadful job searching for their own co-workers. Channel 3's Tasha Jamerson is in New York this morning with more. Good morning, Tasha.
Good morning, David. Good morning, Ellie. Work has not stopped here since about 10 o'clock yesterday morning. Non-stop. You can see behind me, activity is starting to pick up. Again, they have streets blocked off, obviously for safety's sake. I'm going to have Scott Haney join me because this is, we've been saying all morning long, Scott, it's surreal, it's eerie. You were here right downtown when it all happened.
It was an incredible scene, and Tasha, as the day unfolded, you start to see the rescue squads from Long Island, from New Jersey, from Connecticut, all just marching by, and there was no traffic in the street. And then you'd see some of the trucks, the rescue trucks, coming back from the area, completely shrouded in dust. All the guys with the masks on, they had some sweat, you know, the sweat from hard work, day of labor, with the construction debris all over them. And you would ask them, how was it down there? Like, you were sympathetic, and one word answers: horrible, bad. Firefighters, Tasha, we heard this morning on the scene, literally crying and doing the crucifix every time that they would witness this. It's the skeletal remains of what was 110 two-story buildings. You've been in there as a tourist, I'm sure.
It's amazing. And I have to tell you, Scott, because I know you were here when that happened. I was at the newsroom back in Hartford, and there were a lot of tears in our newsroom. And just watching it on TV. Being here now, though, it is just, we can't say it enough. It's surreal. It's absolutely unbelievable. I have to tell you, as we were coming to New York City yesterday, Peter and I, my photographer, we were following just tons and tons of emergency personnel coming from Connecticut over to New York. Unbelievable.
And you always know, if you've lived in Manhattan for any period of time, you always know when something's wrong, because they're these black to unmarked Jeep Cherokees, and they just start appearing out of nowhere, coming down the different avenues with the sirens and the blue lights on the dashboard. And then you look around, you're like, something's up with this. And then the people, it was just like, you know, when a president is shot or something like that, and everybody just gathers around the television, walking on every avenue in front of every television screen. People were just, they were hoarding information. They couldn't get enough of what's happening. And this is a story that is going to be with us for quite some time.
Unfortunately, I have to tell you, we're trying to get to our satellite truck this morning and see Scott's face. See Scott walking down almost empty.
It was kind of bizarre.
What street was that? It wasn't 6th.
We were on 14th approaching 6th Avenue, and I was trying to get to you guys. I thought you were here, and then I look up and I see this Channel 3 news van I'm like, So that's my team.
And I have to tell you, you brought a smile to my heart because, going through all these empty streets and there he is with his little backpack walking to the subway.
Going to work at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was very relieved to see you guys too because it brought a smile. It's good to know people and to talk to people, and everybody's going to have a 6 degree of separation, knowing somebody in the building. Just keep the lines of communication open.
Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Tasha, it's hard to believe the World Trade Centers. It took more than 5 years to build, and it collapsed just like that. Hard to believe. And
there was hope yesterday, even after the second plane hit, or at least there was the mental picture that they were going to stay that way, as bad as it was, and then when they collapsed, it was devastating. That was part of a shocking day yesterday. Last night at 8:30, President Bush did address the country. He said acts of terrorism will not stand and that Americans' resolve will be strong.
Good evening. Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. The victims were in airplanes or in their offices, secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads, friends and neighbors. Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror. The pictures of airplanes flying into buildings, fires burning, huge structures collapsing, have filled us with disbelief, terrible sadness, and a quiet, unyielding anger. These acts of mass murder were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat. But they have failed. Our country is strong. A great people has been moved to defend a great nation. Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America. These acts shatter steel, but they cannot dent the steel of American resolve. America was targeted for attack because we're the brightest beacon for freedom and opportunity in the world, and no one will keep that light from shining. Today, our nation saw evil, the very worst of human nature, and we responded with the best of America, with the daring of our rescue workers, with the caring for strangers and neighbors who came to give blood and help in any way they could. Immediately following the first attack, I implemented our government's emergency response plans. Our military is powerful, and it's prepared. Our emergency teams are working in New York City and Washington, D.C. to help with local rescue efforts. Our first priority is to get help to those who have been injured and to take every precaution to protect our citizens at home and around the world from further attacks. The functions of our government continue without interruption. Federal agencies in Washington, which had to be evacuated today, are reopening for essential personnel tonight and will be open for business tomorrow. Our financial institutions remain strong, and the American economy will be open for business as well. The search is underway for those who are behind these evil acts. I've directed the full resources of our intelligence and law enforcement communities to find those responsible and to bring them to justice. We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbor them. I appreciate so very much the members of Congress who have joined me in strongly condemning these attacks. And on behalf of the American people, I thank the many world leaders who have called to offer their condolences and assistance. America and our friends and allies join with all those who want peace and security in the world, and we stand together to win the war against terrorism. Tonight, I ask for your prayers for all those who grieve, for the children whose worlds have been shattered, for all whose sense of safety and security has been threatened. And I pray they will be comforted by a power greater than any of us, spoken through the ages in Psalm 23. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. This is a day when all Americans from every walk of life unite in our resolve for justice and peace. America has stood down enemies before, and we will do so this time. None of us will ever forget this day, yet we go forward to defend freedom and all that is good and just in our world. Thank you. Good night, and God bless America.
That was President Bush addressing the nation last night at 8:30, reassuring the people that we will rebuild and get back to life as normal.
We've been reporting this morning that Governor John Rowland was to address the state at 7 o'clock this morning. And we're told now that that's not going to happen, at least not in the coming minutes. If the governor does, of course, address the state today, we will bring that to you.
Now in Washington, at the Pentagon, recovery efforts are underway. One of our Connecticut congressmen was there in Washington, D.C. He is there now this morning. We have Congressman John Larson on the phone. Congressman, good morning.
Good morning.
Tell us what it is like right now in Washington, D.C., what the streets look like, where you are, and what you went through.
Well, it's a very